trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it was never a factor of principle. Here, what we are trying to say is that when war becomes inevitable, the duty of Kshatriya is to fight the people or the kingdom for the righteousness. So it was not actually to seek enmity or to propagate non-violence, but it was a kind of method that was used to restore the dharma for that period of time. So this is a verse taken from a religious law book, which states that in a battlefield while fighting, another king envious of him is eligible for achieving heavenly planet after death. So it is just saying that I think Kshatriyas, normally we hear the word as either they enjoy or they die, they directly go to heaven. They say Vijayamo Veera Swargamo. So Vijayam is like victory. They see two things. One is victory. If not victory, if they die in a righteous war, then they say, it is said that they go directly to the heaven. So they have a direct thing because the way that they do is their duty. And when you are performing your duty and when you lose your life during that, you always get a better place in the world. So he is asking, Arjuna, what is your natural tendency? What is your Swadharma? And everyone knows that Arjuna's, how do you know which is your Swadharma? Swadharma is any kind of activity or work which is in harmony of your nature. When you do that particular activity, you will feel very happy. You will feel very much satisfaction from inside. So you can search within yourself as what is your natural tendency or inclination. For me, doing sports or teaching gives me a lot of satisfaction and inner peace, not actually the IT work that I'm doing. So I can take it that my Swadharma is teaching or doing a sport because I am happier when doing that action. There could be various reasons why we do other things, but the technique or the cause and effect is that when you are following your Swadharma, you will always end up in peace. When you are not following Swadharma, it is called Paradharma. You will end up in restlessness because it is not something that is naturally inclined for you. When we mean natural inclination, again, we go back to the vasanas. How does an inclination come or a tendency come? It comes through vasanas. His Swadharma is to fight, and now he is saying that he wants to go and meditate. That was the thing he said in the second chapter, that Guru na hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyam apiha loke. He wants to go in the forest, meditate, beg and make his living. So it is not his nature. Even though Arjuna goes there, sits, what do you think will be his mind's reaction when he thinks about Karna or Duryodhana after going during the time of meditating? Do you think he will be happy or peaceful when the thought of them comes, or he will be agitated? When a person who has been constantly fighting from his childhood and who has been enjoying winning, and a person who is having the thirst for praises, and a person who is having the thirst for enjoyment of the kingdom, such a person, if he goes temporarily or takes a call now to go and meditate, when he sits, when he thinks about Duryodhana, he suddenly feels restless because he might think, why did I leave him the battle and come now? He might be enjoying. I did a wrong thing. So that creates restlessness. If you take up a thing that is not your natural tendency, that action will never give you peace of mind because that's not your nature. If you take Buddha or Mahavira, they all became meditative monks or went into a meditative state because even though born in a royal family, their inclination or their inner tendency was more towards non-violence and peace. That's why undisturbedly they could make themselves established in the knowledge of thinkers or self-realized people. But Arjuna is not like that. This is a temporary solution, or we can rather say that this is an escapism that he is trying to take, the path he is trying to take just to escape the battle. Do you agree or not?
Yeah.
Yes,
Dharma,
Abhita.
Abhita, I have a question here. Swadharma is something what we enjoy and gives us pleasure, or it's our responsibility?
It could be our responsibility also. See, dharma is
If we don't
naturally the
enjoy
laws
our
or duties.
responsibility? Okay.
But when it comes to the division of actions, when it is your duty, duties have no feelings. Duties are to be performed without any kind of feelings. No, it's like duties cannot be judged as I feel happy out of it or I don't feel happy out of it. Duties are to be performed. So Swadharma, when we take it in the form of your duty, and your duties are at that time here, when they say the duty, his duty as a person has, his duties have been decided by the way he has grown up. Here, he has funked up as a warrior. So the duty that Lord Krishna is taking up here is the duty of a warrior.
Okay. So
In
duty
general
and
cases,
responsibility both are different.
yes, they are different. Duties are
Okay.
ought to do. Responsibilities is choice.
Okay.
See,
Duties
if you
will
are
not
a
have
lead,
any feelings.
you should not have any feelings to do.
Okay.
Duties are ought to do. There is nothing like I like to do it or I don't like to do it. When you have no choice of doing the work, it's always suggested to develop interest towards it because you cannot run away from it. As a parent, taking care of your children is your duty.
Yeah.
You have interest towards it. You do it willingly or unwillingly. You cannot run away from it. When that is the thing, to be wise, be happy by doing it so that you don't corrupt yourself.
Yeah.
And in the same second thing, when you talk about responsibilities, suppose you are a team leader. Take the example of coming on time. That is the responsibility of a leader to, so that others will follow. It's not must that you must come on time.
Yeah.
That
Got
is the
it, Abhi.
difference between duty and responsibility. These are ought to do and those are good to do. And if you do, you will be a better example for that
Yeah.
role you are fitting in.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So the thing that we are trying to tell is he is trying to go to Paradharma, which is not his natural tendency or inclination, which will really not give him any kind of benefit. And he says, leave looking from the angle of death. Start looking at the angle of performing the action. Till now, your grief is because they will die, he will die. And also, if you just check of Arjuna, is it the first battle Arjuna is fighting? When the Kurukshetra was decided, he knows whom he has to fight against. He knows against whom he is fighting. He knows what is it does it take to win the kingdom. He knows that he has to kill every one of them. Then only he can enjoy the kingdom. There was nothing that was not known to him. But the struck of emotion was too much, that emotional turbulence was too much, that he lost his thinking capability and he broke down. So he starts now provoking a thought in Arjuna. Arjuna, till now you have been thinking from the angle of death. Your grief was because my relatives will die, my guru will die, my grandfather will die, all my relatives will die. Stop looking from that angle. And now let's look at the angle of performing actions. And for this Swadharma and Paradharma, when we take, I just look at through an example of soldier and a common man. When a soldier takes a gun and does a war in the country border, he kills the people. Will he be penalized for his action?
No.
He will be in turn given a Paramavira Chakra or any kind of great recognition. Suppose the same soldier gets the same gun home and kills one of his family member, might be. At that time, will he be punished or not for the act he has done? The same gun, the same person, same act.
Yeah, he will be punished.
So he will be punished. Actions are the same, person is the same, but the difference is here is that the intention of performing that particular act is different. There, the intention was to protect the country. Here, the intention was whatever could be, it's a personal reason. So both being the acts being the same, person being the same, and the instruments used being the same, both will not be treated in the same way. In the same way, when Arjuna is in the battlefield, the right to act or the killing of people is for a good cause. That will never be considered as a sin. To make them understand, he has brought this point of Swadharma into picture. So from this, we can understand that acceptance of actions vary with intentions. The same example we can take when a person uses a knife to kill a person and a doctor uses a knife to make a surgery. The intentions of two people differ, but the act that they are doing is cutting open a body with the same instrument. So it's always better to live our own destiny imperfectly rather than to imitate of somebody else's life with perfection. What does this mean is that we keep on changing our interests of doing or interests of doing because that person is doing like this person is doing like that, because that person did that, he got something. So when we just look at others, we tend to imitate and think that, oh, because that person is acting in certain way, he is having a better life than us. Why can't we do that? But that doesn't work that way, because every one of us are unique in terms of our vasanas, in terms of our tendencies, and in terms of how we express in this world. So it's always good, and this will be emphasized in the third chapter also. It's always better to stick to our Swadharma and do it imperfectly rather than follow Paradharma and do it perfectly. Because at the end, whenever we take Paradharma, restlessness is bound to happen. We can enjoy it only for a certain period of time, but at the end, we are certainly bound to have restlessness. So here when Arjuna says to fight, it's not encouraging Arjuna to a great war, but work towards his duties. He's not trying to encourage him to non-violence. He's not encourage him to develop enmity, but encourage him to do it as a fact or matter of duty. Understanding the concept of Swadharma, the reflection point as parents we can take away is that not to force the dreams upon children. This will not help them to succeed in any way, because I am a doctor, I cannot force my kids to be doctors. And if you take examples of a lot of people, we see that the children who are forced to take up professions without their interest end up losing interest in certain period of time. Either they go to depression or they lose interest in their life itself because they don't have a motivation to do the work. But most of the times when you see why the society is not successful and why that happiness factor is not there, because 70 to 80% of the people do not follow Swadharma. It could be because of any reason. One thing could be because of priorities, because of necessities, and one thing because of force. Whatever might be the reason, because we are not following the path of Swadharma, we end up not being happy in whatever we are doing, and we cannot really feel the life as peace and joy as it has to be. So there are instances or examples which had been quoted. One of the reputed doctor wants his son to become a doctor, and the son wants to be a computer engineer. And when we go and ask the doctor or the father, why is he forcing his son to become a doctor? His reply would be, I had built a hospital because my son also would be a doctor and he would use the hospital. If not, the whole setup that I have done goes waste. I want my daughter-in-law also to be doctor because I have also built another gynecology department for it, but I don't have anyone to take care of it. So people go on forcing people or choosing people just because they want to fulfill their desires, never thinking that every individual is different. It could be our own child, it could be our own sibling. Everybody will have their own inclination and their own interest in some field or the other. So as parents, it's very, very important for us to understand what is their interest or inclination and encourage them to work towards it, which will help them as well as us, because at the end of the day, as parents, what we seek is our kids' happiness, and that happiness will get them success. You agree or not?
Yes, Savita.
Any questions? And initial slide, if you see, we have seen that Arjuna was in a state asking that Krishna, why this philosophy? Now it's Krishna's turn to ask Arjuna, Arjuna, there is also a time to speak philosophy. What is Arjuna trying to do now? He wants to run away from the war. And to run away from the war or to withdraw, even in a general sense, if you see, you opt for an election, you apply for a post, you do anything, there will be a withdrawal period within which you can submit your withdrawal application. After that, you cannot actually withdraw. If you are in the field, and what is the time he is speaking the philosophy? That he is feeling all this turbulence, he is feeling this as a sin, and whatever in the first chapter, nearly 14 to 15 verses Arjuna spoke was a complete philosophy. He was talking that the caste systems will go, the ladies will lose their piety, there will be no one to give the rice balls or the pindams to the ancestors. It is all hell. We will only incur sin. All the food that I eat will be tainted with blood. I cannot even imagine this. So whatever he spoke, the time was philosophy. So he is reminding Arjuna, Arjuna, for you also there is a time to speak philosophy. You cannot speak philosophy at the crux of the moment where you have to act. How are you able to speak philosophy? When you question that I am speaking philosophy when you are emotional, how can you speak philosophy at the crux of the moment where you are supposed to act? Bhishma has blown the crown shell. The war has started officially. In the sense, once the crown shell is blown, it marks the start of the battle. At that time, standing in the middle of the battle, you started speaking philosophy. Is this right? You also think. So as you feel that there is a time to speak philosophy, you also should understand that there is a time to speak philosophy or withdraw. This is not something new. And what happened to you to get these emotions? Have you never fought? Have you never killed anyone? Have you never enjoyed winning a battle? Just now, because the materialistic feelings cropped up, the materialism of mine and I came up, you started feeling pain in your heart that all my people will die, that my feeling has blinded your thinking capability. And that's why you are going to take up paradharma as a route of escapism, not as a route of transformation. And this is a small story based on Acharya Vinoba Bhave's it's an imaginative story from him to just say the same thing which was said before. So there was a judge who actually gives a sentence, a very hard sentence to all the people, even though they do a moderate mistakes. The only punishment he gives them is a death sentence. So that he was a person of that kind who always believes that a stricter punishments work. So one day what happened, that one of the person who was brought before him for judgment was the judge's own son. At that time, the judge started saying that, now I thought that just killing a person for a person who has done a very gruesome act is not actually a right treatment to do. If a dog bites us, we will not treat it by biting back the dog. We will actually treat the dog's wound in the same way. When a person does a mistake, it's not like punishing in this way that will help that person to come out of that mistake. And then all the other people will say, sir, if you have said this, when the person who is standing is not your child, then we would have accepted it. You cannot now talk the words of transformation because the person to whom you are going to give judgment is your son. So just think, why suddenly you're feeling like this after giving death sentence to lots and lots of people before this? They also are doing the same mistakes. So this is the same context to apply to Arjuna, that he started feeling pinch of pain because he got the idea that he is trying to kill all his relatives. Any questions still here?
No, Abhita.
Okay. We will go to the next verse. Yadruchaya chopapannam swargadvaramapavrutam sukhina kshatriyah partha labante yuddhamidrisham. He is saying that, oh Arjuna, the warrior who is confronted with such a war should be pleased for it has come of itself as an open gate to heaven. So he is now trying to bring back on the words which Arjuna has said earlier about incurring sin because of fighting. He is now trying to say that as a warrior, if you are confronted with war, nothing is a great opportunity for a warrior to die in the war. So if you die in the war, it opens the gates for the heaven without any question. So the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kind of difficulties, and that's the reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases. And for a Kshatriya on the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of the fools. As I said earlier, Krishna is not provoking Arjuna to fight a battle to seek enmity or to have hatred. He is instructing Arjuna to wage a war, which is his duty. Because at this place, this is very much needed. Both the heaven and hell are the states of mind, one ordered and the other disordered. But here is the most exciting part of all. You have the ability to choose which of these states you want to love to live in. So that's why they say heaven or hell are not determined by God. It's our choice. We choose whether to be in heaven or whether to be in hell. Forget life after that. But the current life, you want to make it a heaven or you want to make it a hell is totally your choice. So the mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. This is said by John Milton. So we'll see the next shloka. Ata chetvamimam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatasvadharmam kirtincha hitva papamavapsyasi. So in the previous verse, he was saying that fighting the war leads you to heaven. He told the positive side of fighting the war. In this shloka, he tells the negative side, meaning if you do not participate in this battle against evil, you will be violating your dharma and your honor and you will incur sin. So he is now trying to get into Arjuna's shoes to tell him that what are the consequences of not acting. So he took a stance. Arjuna, stop thinking from the angle of death. Let's now think from the angle of acting. All the philosophy was done. He is trying to bring him to practicality, his mind to invoke a thought process so that he will understand what he is trying to say. So when they analyze it from the angle of actions, the first thing he said, if you act, it will take you to heaven. If you do not act, if you do not participate in this battle, which is violating your dharma and your honor, you will incur sin. So actions per se are neither meritorious or sinful. So what causes it to be a heaven or hell, or the internal mental reaction decides the nature of the action. So when you say the action is a happy action or a action is a sinful action, it is not by the nature of the action. It could be right or wrong, it is immaterial. But how do you feel after you act makes you happy, be in heaven or a hell, makes you sin or not sin. I'll tell you examples. If you are doing a bad thing or anything it could be, but after doing that particular thing, you still feel happy within yourself. Leave about the cause and the consequences. For every action you do, you will bear the consequences. But when it comes to the mental states, for that point of time, when you are happy after doing an action, that means you are peaceful. At the same time, when you are doing a good thing, still after doing the good thing also your mind is restless, that means your mind is incurring sin. That restlessness here is defined as sin, and lack of restlessness is defined as heaven, which is a peaceful state to be in. So if you can analyze and understand all the actions, it's the current state. It has nothing to do with good or bad. And when we have to talk about good or bad, it will be again the law of cause and effect. So every cause will have a consequence. For example, take a person who is smoking or drinking. That person is doing a thing which is not good for the body. So he will face the consequence of it for sure. It could be after any amount of time. But what was the mental reaction after he performed that particular activity? It could be smoking or it could be drinking. They feel very blissful. So that state of mind is a peaceful mind. They tend to be in the state of heaven because their mental state is in heaven. Did you understand this difference between an action and what is actually making you live in heaven or live in hell?
Yes, Sabita.
So Abhita, how to go about it? Because actually what you're doing is wrong, but still you're in a blissful mood. So is it right or wrong? I mean, suppose
See,
a
again,
child
when
is
you talk
there.
about right or wrong, again, it comes back to your samskaras. Every action, when you see the consequence of your action, that karma phala, as you say, will be merits for the good action and demerits for the bad action. You could be happy for this moment of time, but if you have done a wrong action, you will actually bear the
Okay, will
consequence
incur.
of it at any
Okay,
point of time. But
okay,
currently you are in heaven.
okay.
For a drunkard person, for example, if you take, or a smoking person, when his lungs get damaged, he will be in hell because his mental state is restlessness, lying in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
But it's the current state of mind that decides whether you are in heaven or hell. So when we understand clearly, it's not the action that gives us that feeling, but it is the internal mental reaction after performing that action. How do you feel after performing that action?
Okay. So being in that state is okay. Again, coming back to good and bad. Okay, understood.
Yeah, it's not
Got
about
it.
good and bad at all. Yeah, every
Okay, okay.
cause has its consequence. Every karma has its own merits and demerits. You will carry your own baggage, no doubt about it. But this is the current state of your mind with which you will live. That's all.
Got it.
And
Got it.
this state will not be the same, right? When you are happy now, when you are intoxicated, you feel that happiness. But when you again have some physical problems, you lose that blissfulness or that happiness, right? So again, your mind becomes restless. So these two are not a permanent set of things to say that I will be like this throughout.
Yeah.
It changes every moment, every minute, or every day. It changes. This is what is determined by the three modes of existence.
Okay. Now I was just thinking how to explain this logic to the kids. Suppose my daughter is there. She's always on TV watching some cartoons and she don't want to study. Which she is actually enjoying it. She is happy at that moment. So I tell myself that okay, she's enjoying, let her watch for some more time, leave it. I leave it at that time. But it ends up watching the whole day, which is not good actually. So how to explain this logic to my child, I was thinking. Because she will
So
not
not this
understand that
logic. See, for them also we need to explain them in terms of the cause and effect. You need to try to explain them that too much of input is not good. See, if they want to be intelligent, if they want to use their mind to the fullest, or if they want to be intellectually capable, they have to not only take input, they have to give equal amount of output. That is how the brain works. You can tell them in the system, if they are like about 10 years and all, you can tell the system of how brain works, as how our body is getting stronger and stronger every day with eating and exercising. The same way food has to go to your brain, and you also need to exercise your brain. Exercising stops when you watch TV.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Yes, Sarika, thank you.
Yeah. So now Arjuna abandons battle. He's saying that he doesn't want, so he neglects his religious duty. And this will, because of this, he will lose his fame and good name. And this will prepare a royal road to hell. If he decides to fight, he will be perform his religious duty. He gains fame and good name, and it prepares a royal road to heaven. And also one thing about Arjuna is that he is a person who always longs for fame. If you say that something is infamy, he will immediately think about it because naturally he doesn't want anyone to talk bad out of him, anyone to degrade him or demoralize him. He is a person of praises. He always falls a prey to praises. Understanding that weakness of Arjuna, Krishna is attacking him, making use of his weakness. So it's a call to each and every one of us to get up and fight the battle of our own life according to our own vasanas, so that we may exhaust them and thus gain inner purity. So this is the same thing that we were talking about as how when we act with Swadharma, we will be able to actually exhaust all our vasanas and gain inner purity. And I forgot to explain you for the Swadharma, the another law which we take it in the basis of law. Let me open in another presentation. So one thing we have told is Swadharma as being the duty or the natural tendency or work that is in harmony with our nature. When we take its dharma as a law, we will see how this is applicable and how that work stands intact when a law is applied to Krishna's preaching to Arjuna. When he says that if you follow Swadharma, you have to fight. If you don't follow if you follow Swadharma, you have to fight. So here, Swadharma means laws of the self, and the second laws which we define here is the physical laws. When we are living in the world of materialism, in this world, we all live by the law of physical. What do we mean by law of physical is that law of physical always have boundaries. So if certain things crosses the boundaries, always collision happen. When we say talking about boundaries, take for example, the tolerance limit you have on a particular activity. So if a person talks bad about you, certainly we will feel bad. But the tolerance of who has spoken has a boundary, meaning that if a person totally who is not known to you talks, your reaction will be different. If a person who is very close to you talks like that, your reaction will be different. If a mistake is done by your own kid, the way we react will be different. So for each one of the person we are interacting with, we have a boundary drawn. The boundary could be very, very little also, but if the crossing of boundaries happen, then we are bound to collide, meaning that our mind becomes restless, our tolerance limit goes off, and we are bound to a battlefield, in the sense we lose our mental peace. So the laws of nature works with boundaries, and collision starts once transgression of boundaries happen. Only when we maintain boundaries, things will work in the physical world. As long as everyone are in their places without crossing boundaries, everything works fine. And what is law of self? Law of self is you are at the place of experience where you are, but your mind is totally detached from the world. You sit here and be nowhere, in the sense that there are no attachment. Whatever happens, whatever boundary crosses, your mind is not at all agitated. You can still experience the peace. This is the state of a total self-realized person, sitting anywhere, even in the midst of turmoil, but still experience the inner bliss. So that is the law of self. If you follow the law of self, you can experience this. But if you follow the law of physical, collision is bound to happen. So what Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna is that you had been following the laws of physical till now, because we all had boundaries. We had given ample chances to Duryodhana, but now he has exceeded all his ways of doing things, and the boundaries has crossed. He has transgressed all the boundaries, and that's why collision has to happen. The fight has to happen. If you have been following the law of self, Arjuna, there is no need for you to fight. But from the start, as per your nature, you were following the laws of physical. When you follow the laws of physical, you cannot stop fighting the war, because now transgression happened. They have crossed their boundaries, and you have to go and fight. So you have to fight as per your laws, as per your physical laws with which you are operating. You cannot get away from the fight. So if you had followed the laws of self, then there is no need for you to fight. But that was not what you have been following so far. So this is another kind of taking of Swadharma when we take dharma as a law. Akirtim chapi bhutani khatayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate. Again, he is like emotionally trying to make use of the weakness of Arjuna. People who will speak of your unending infamy. For a man of honor, dishonor is surely worse than death. He is again making use of his weakness because Akirtim, he is a person of fame. He wants everyone to praise him. And if anyone starts not praising him, and if Arjuna, he is now telling Arjuna because he has to think. If Arjuna is getting a feeling that this act would make him infamy, he will immediately wake up from the sleep and start thinking, which is better, fighting or not fighting, getting emotional or becoming infamy. So he is trying to stir this kind of thought process in him, saying that people will talk about you as a person who has run away from the battlefield, who is an escapist, and you can never be a person to be followed or for a person to be looked forward to. You being a leader, you will not be taken in the footprints of the people. And you are a person of honor, who is a person who always looks for fame. And for you, dishonor is surely worse than death. So you decide whether you want to die in this war, win in this war, you will get kingdom. Die in this war, you will get a direct route to heaven. If you run away from this war, what you get is dishonor. So you start thinking now. So when Arjuna abandons battle, people will call him coward. He will lose his fame and good name. When Arjuna dies in battle, people will not talk bad of him. Still, they talk with a great reverence or fame that he fought for a good cause. It gains him good name. And for a respectable man, ill fame is worse than death. And for a person like Arjuna, yeah, if a person was not like Arjuna, for sure Krishna would not have brought this conversation here. Why this kind of words are used by Krishna here? Because he knows the weaknesses of Arjuna and he knows what kind of instructions would make him think and what would really make him change his mind. So the final judgment of Krishna was Arjuna to die in the battlefield and not to withdraw. Any questions till here? These 4 verses? No questions? Shall I continue with one more verse today?
Yes, Sarita.
Vayadranaduparatam mansyante tvam maharathaha yesham chatvam bahumataha bhutva yasyasi laghavam. So he's saying, the great warriors will consider you as having retreated from the battle due to fear, and you having been so highly esteemed by them will fall in their esteem. When he says the great warriors, he is referring to Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and all of them who have very high regards for Arjuna. They all had a very high regard for you. And if you run away from this battle, and this is the same sentence which Arjuna used in the first chapter, I cannot kill any one of them because he is my guru, he is my acharya and everything. So he's bringing all those people into limelight in the terms of action. All the people you said, the great warriors, will consider you as an escapist. If you run away from the battle, they don't think that you have these emotions, you have run because you really didn't want to kill them. They will surely think that you ran because of your fear to face them. And you, being highly esteemed, will fall in their esteem. You will lose your self-esteem. So Arjuna always had an exaggerated value for worldly reputation. If he senses that anyone is going to talk ill about him, he will never do that activity. And Krishna tries to make use of his weakness to revive from the emotional stupor he was undergoing. So Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that greatest generals like Duryodhana, Karna and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life. And thus, their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. And when we see, most of us, actually this weakness comes to us because of our complexes. Most of us suffer from this disease of mental illness, which is either having a superiority complex or having an inferiority complex. Most of us suffer, and this is one of the complex. Whatever Arjuna was suffering is also a kind of complex, his superiority complex. And we let ourselves revolve around the opinions of others. Till the end of our lives, we will be seeking the opinions of others or the consensus of others to conquer what we are doing with the opinions of others. And if others speak bad about us, we feel restless even though we have not done that, or if we are not like that. This all comes because of complexes. So the thing that we need to understand is that in this world, nobody is superior, nobody is inferior, and nobody is equal either. So all of us are unique, incomparable. And when we start comparing with each other and striving to get live our life based on the opinions of others, we can be more happier. And the complexes and egos will be very much reduced. When we start depending or relying on the opinions of others, a concurrence of others in each and every small activity we do, we can never be happy. And we will surely suffer because of our own complexes. Any questions?